Hello, Internet. Before we begin, I have a few words I would like to say before I get into the topic of the video. I had the audio recorded and edited, I was in the process of gathering visual assets, and I had picked out some of Kevin MacLeod's music on YouTube's library to use in my video. I will not make excuses. I was up in the mountains for 2 months doing volunteer work because a scout is helpful and a scout is kind. What I will say is that my downtime was spent recuperating, and my laptop unfortunately did not like the heat. But to not take up any more time, I am sorry, I have gotten out of my funk, I'm making videos again, and I've also heard that Project Q is going by PlayStation Portal now. So with that train of thought, I do want to have a video up by October 7th, talking about my thoughts and feelings on PlayStation Portal, so be on the lookout for it. Other than that, it's all I wanted to say, so please enjoy the video. Hello everyone, I'm Mr. J, and I'm attempting to catch on to the trending topic of Project Q. I'm a fan of video games, movies, TV shows, and entertainment alike. So, when a friend of mine in one of our Discord servers showed everyone the Project Q trailer, I was very concerned for Sony. I'll be going over 3 points in the video. What Project Q is, my critical thoughts of Project Q, and what I'm hoping comes out of this. Everything I use is under the terms of fair use, and all that other YouTube gobbledygook. Before we begin, I'm laying out my biases. I love PlayStation, but I'm not going to turn this into a history lesson or a spiel about why I grew a fond appreciation for the PlayStation consoles. I like the consoles, I like the games Sony publishes or develops, and unless something heavily changes that opinion, I want to continue supporting the company for the foreseeable future. I'm also no stranger to Sony and the PlayStation 5. I bought my PS5 off a friend, I saved my PS3 from a flea market, and my PS4 sits in a box because it's an original, and I have no idea how to properly clean the fans. That aside, I have some fond memories with PlayStation. I originally found out about Project Q from a friend while I was working on my other videos, and this is the information I found around the web. On the technical aspect side, PlayStation's Project Q has an 8-inch HD display, all the regular DualSense buttons, and will stream games over Wi-Fi already installed on one's PS5. Right now, it doesn't look like Project Q will let us use the handheld offline, unless Sony says otherwise. Meanwhile, on the non-technical side, with how much the usual game journalist websites are spouting out, it looks like Project Q is averaging between $200 to $400. And from my perspective, Project Q looks to be Sony's PS Vita 2.0. Like how Nintendo has the Switch, Steam has the Steam Deck, and Xbox has the Logitech G Cloud. I'm sorry, that's just too funny. I know saying Project Q being the PS Vita 2 is a stretch, but the PSP and the Vita were Sony's only other handhelds. I don't know what else to say here other than it looks like a fancy Nintendo Switch. I have my criticisms of the handheld itself, and granted, these are based on opinion and speculation, and not facts or concrete evidence. The first point we're starting on, and the shortest, is about remote play. I don't like this. As the major game corporations right now like to tout, you need high-speed internet to use remote play. AKA, you need a fast Wi-Fi connection for streaming games so you can properly play them on a console or unit. To shed a little light on my life, I live in the shrinking middle class. I live in a home with your standard internet package. So unless you can play games on Project Q or it's a wireless connection that nullifies the need for a television to view from, there's already one big problem for me as the consumer. I don't have high-speed internet for streaming or doing cloud gaming. That's the long and short of it. Alright, moving on. See, I told you it'd be short. While this next point is a series of questions, it's the principle of what Project Q can offer. In other words, be skeptical. Is the handheld really going to be worth the $200 to $400 price tag? What will the benefits of owning a Project Q handheld give me? I already have 2 controllers for the console. What will adding a fancy third controller to my game shelf do for me? Can I upload games to the handheld and play them on the go like the Switch? What's the structural integrity of the unit itself? What's the unit's battery life? Will Project Q release like the Steam Deck, or will we have store-wide releases? Is the handheld durable enough to last for a decade, or have a reasonable repair policy? Sony, what are you offering me with Project Q that Nintendo, Steam, and numerous other game corporations don't have? Lastly, I know this is poking fun at Project Q, but look at it. For context, I weigh around 270, I'm 6 feet, and I have a stocky build. With me just looking at this thing, if I were to so much as sneeze or jolt around, this handheld looks like it would snap into 3 pieces. I mean, look at the Wii U. That clunky little bastard had its own set of problems, but at least it had some meat on its bones. Project Q, it's making fun of itself without even trying. In all seriousness, going off of what I already know, the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller weighs roughly 11.47 ounces, and the Switch without controllers weighs about 10.56 ounces. That rounds up to 1.4 pounds if we're basing what Project Q looks like as a fusion of the 2 handheld elements presented. I'm not an expert when it comes to structural integrity or designing things, but even I can tell this looks bad from a subjective standpoint. From the images I've seen, it just looks flimsy. Looking at other handhelds and handheld consoles, they either have detachable controllers, or the unit has the controllers fully connected to the screen. On the other hand, Project Q looks like the handheld is 3 steps away from snapping apart. So unless Sony connects them to the screen fully, or beefs up the supports from the screen to the controller pieces, methinks this is going to end horribly. What I hope comes out of Project Q is either a success or a learning experience for Sony. Look, I don't want it to fail. But if Sony's executives think that they can sway me with a PS5 controller stapled to a Switch, then they've got another thing coming. I know they won't care about a YouTuber who, as of recording, currently has 12 subscribers, but here's my 2 cents. Sony, if by some miracle someone working for you is listening, take a look at the designs of the numerous handhelds currently in the market. Then reevaluate the design so the controller portions connect to the handheld without being overbearing or negatively impacting the screen. And lastly, beef up the battery and the design of Project Q itself. Because if you're touting PS5 games to be streamable and or playable on this thing, then the dimensions of the Switch aren't going to cut it. As I said earlier, I don't want Project Q to fail. So I'm hoping the images we have of Project Q are the beta designs. Because if this is the final product Sony is touting, then I can only offer them luck in their future endeavors. In conclusion, I don't think Project Q is a bad idea. Right now, it just looks to be a rushed attempt for Sony to fling themselves into the handheld market. To those of you out there on the internet who will most likely say,
Oh, this is the handheld that will blow the Nintendo Switch and the Steam Deck out of the water.
No, it won't. Nintendo has had their experience in the handheld market for over 25 years. The Steam Deck, while I have my skepticisms of it, looks to be a somewhat competent handheld. And Microsoft is Microsoft. They could literally pull out of the gaming market and suffer no major losses whatsoever. If Sony were to hypothetically blow us all out of the water, they should halt for a couple of years. Go back to the drawing board to see what makes the other handhelds great, and incorporate their own ideas and choices into Project Q. Speaking as an outsider to this field, I don't even think Project Q will make much of a positive splash in the gaming market. The economy, the state of quality in gaming, and human patience is all working against them. So unless Sony reads the room and waits, I feel Project Q will violently crash and burn into the ground. Remember, this is all based on my perspective and speculation of the limited information Sony has currently given us about Project Q. None of what I said is concrete fact. It's based upon my own thoughts and perceptions. I'm just a 20-something-year-old geek who likes video games, and I want to enjoy what I can before some lunatic out there sours the pot. I'm Mr. J, and Project Q is the PS Vita 2.